After bar, I'm too persistent with income, no cast. Get it on my own, no collab. But a bar with me, that's a body bag. Yo, people, I'll be telling them it's your boy Jazz, my line Jazz, I know seeing Jazz in the building. Right now we've got Meet the Richest Man Who Ever Lived. Now I definitely had to do this video and I'm dropping it on this channel because if you man know, this is a music channel just purely for music. And I have my second channel, which is man like MLC and Jazz that you see in the corner over there. That one's for non-music reaction. So technically this should be going on this one, but when it comes to my music channel, I react to so many different musics and I can do a reaction where it's funny. I can do a reaction when I'm talking about something real, talking about certain topics. So in terms of the audience, it's definitely better to go on this channel right here, because over there mostly the videos that I'm reacting to, I definitely talk about certain issue over there too. We'll dive into certain topics, but that's more so for funny type of banter type of thing, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like this is the right channel to put this on. And also I feel like I just got to, you know what I'm saying, remind people about certain things, you know what I'm saying, because I feel like people forget, you know what I'm saying, my peoples, you know what I'm saying, my brothers and sisters, my ancestors, you know what I'm saying, what do you call it? What am I looking for? Just there, you know what I'm saying? Just there, the addition to the world, basically, fam. Because when it comes to black people, they're the first to create and the first originators of many things, and also the foundation of certain cultures when it comes to sounds, all of them thing there, you know what I'm saying? When it comes to this world and how it is, black people are the foundation, fam, you know what I'm saying? You look everywhere, fam, you know what I'm saying? Whether it's in a certain type of music, a certain type of culture, a certain type of this, a certain type of that, fam, that's what you call black excellence right there, fam, you know what I'm saying? So I think I just needed to react to this video.
Hey,
right
42
you know
here.
What the hell is that voice, fam? Why is your voice so deep, big man?
Hey, 42 here. According to Forbes, last time they published their rich list, Amazon owner Jeff Bezos was the richest man in the world, with a fortune estimated at around $177 billion. That's Bezos a number that's quite hard to get your head around. So let me put it this way. Jeff Bezos' personal fortune is larger than the GDP of 75% of countries around the world. That's one man wielding the equivalent riches of a nation, and a fairly big one at that. This is a level of wealth nobody could conceivably spend in a lifetime, no matter how expensive their tastes. Seriously, Jeff is 57 years.
And also what people get also misconstrued is that it's not like he just has 177 billion like just chilling there. Net worth is basically like how much money he has, you know, saying all his assets taken into accountability and all of them things there, you know.
Is of age at the time of recording this video. Now, he's probably going to have his head cryogenically frozen and live forever, but for the sake of making a point, let's assume he's going to live to 80. In order to use up all of his $177 billion before he died, discounting interest, he would need to spend almost $22 million every single day for the rest of his life. That's well over 10 times the average income an American makes over his entire career.
That's what you call
every single day for about 8,400 days in a row. Yeah, but here's something really interesting. Whilst Jeff Bezos may well be the richest man in modern times, he isn't the richest human being ever to have lived.
Also, sorry, before I get into this, the reason why I was also intrigued by this video is, if you know, I lived in Gambia from 2006 to 2014, and we had a subject there called SES, which was Social Environmental Studies, and in Gambia, you basically were learning about African history from, you know what I'm saying? So the Mali Empire, the Gold Coast, you know what I'm saying? And just the history of Gambia itself and all of them things and how certain things came about. So that's why I know about people like this, because I went to school in Africa from like year 5 to 9, I think, you know what I mean?
In fact, remarkably enough, if you adjust for inflation, he isn't even close. The individual who holds that title is estimated to have been in possession of a fortune well over twice the size of poor old Jeff's, and larger than the fortune of Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Warren Buffett, and Jack Ma combined.
It's brazy, it's brazy.
The funny thing is, despite his vaunted financial position in the annals of human history, there's a very good chance you've never even heard of this guy. That being the case, let me introduce you. This is Mansa Musa, the richest man in history. As for why you haven't heard of him, There are two good reasons for that. First, he was born almost 750 years ago, and second, he was the Sultan of the Mali Empire. Most of my viewers live in Europe and the US. Two parts of the world where school systems have not traditionally put a lot of emphasis on African history.
Exactly. That's one of the benefits of going to a school in Africa, but not all schools do this, because obviously I was still learning the Western English, science, all of them things there, but that one topic right there, you know what I'm saying, it was definitely a big benefit. At the time, I probably didn't realize how beneficial it was, but looking back at it, I definitely see it.
That's a shame, because the Mali Empire, the largest ever seen in Western Africa, was really quite something. At its height in the 14th century, it covered almost 500,000 square miles and was home to around 5% of the world's population. It rose incredibly quickly in the space of just a couple of generations during what's known as the Golden Age of Trade in Africa. The rise of the Mali Empire was built on its unfathomable wealth, and that came primarily from two things: gold and salt, both of which were in rich local supply. So much so that, at the time, approximately half of all gold in the old world, that's Europe, Africa and Asia, came from just 3 gold mines in Mali.
Yeah, because it was gold that was a rich, you know what I said, when it come to the trading, it was gold, salt, I think even cowrie shells at one point, you know what I mean? There was like a bunch of different things, but I can't remember all the details, you know what I'm saying? I'll probably try to get my hands on the SES book, you know what I mean? The like handbook and them things, and get it shipped to me to like just like kind of like brush over and read over certain things, because it's definitely,
The idea that a vast fortune could come from gold is no surprise, but the fact salt was such a major factor might seem a little odd when viewed through our modern lens. But in many parts of 14th century Africa, salt was an incredibly valuable commodity. To the right buyer, it was literally worth its weight in gold. As unlikely as that may sound, it actually makes a lot of sense when you think about it. After all, salt is an essential part of the human diet.
That's a fact.
We quite literally can't survive without it. It also happens to make bland food much more palatable, and it can be used as a preservative, which was especially useful before the invention of reliable refrigeration. So in regions where
in Gambia, obviously in places like Africa, there's still
more palatable, and it can be used as a preservative.
They still use methods like this in Africa, you know what I'm saying? You go to Africa right now, you go to the market, they'll still use methods like this because, for example, not everyone has a fridge, you know what I'm saying? So this is more convenient.
Which was especially useful before the invention of reliable refrigeration. So in regions where salt was sparse, it was priceless. Gold, on the other hand, is shiny. We use it in all sorts of things today, from electronics to spaceships, but the fact it looked kinda pretty was about the extent of its appeal in the 14th century. Mansa Musa was born sometime around 1280 AD, and he came to the throne as the 10th ruler of the Mali Empire in approximately 1312 AD. His rise to power was a slightly odd one. He was only ever supposed to be a temporary ruler, selected for his caretaker position when his predecessor, Abu Bakari Keita II, decided to go and find out what was on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean, as you do. The emperor took some 3,000 ships and set off into the vast expanse of the ocean, leaving behind his throne and one of the greatest fortunes in history, all without a shred of evidence that there was actually anything to discover on the other side. So far as we know, neither Abu Bakari Keita II nor his 3,000-strong fleet was ever seen again. Though a few historians believe he did indeed make it all the way to South America, but that's a story for another day. The important bit for our purposes is that this one-time ruler of the Mali Empire never came back from his bold voyage, and so Mansa Musa officially ascended to the throne, where he set about extending the borders of his lands and growing his already vast wealth. By the way, I should point out that Mansa is a job title rather than a first name. It means emperor or sultan. Anyway, as the head of one of
It's
Africa's
like, for example, here obviously you have your MPs, you have your presidents, all of them thing there. In Gambia, they still have a thing which is called the alcalo. So of each village, you'll have an alcalo, which is basically like the head honcho of that certain village or city or whatever. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like your version of a Boris Johnson in Africa. You know what I mean? They call it an alcalo, and he's the foresee of that certain little village. You know what I'm saying? Rules, regulations, whatever. If there's any beefs or you know what I mean, something that needs to be sorted out in the community, you go to that person, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's the African version or the Gambian version of a Boris Johnson, you know what I mean? The Alcalo.
It means emperor or sultan. Anyway, as the head of one of Africa's greatest empires, just how rich was Mansa Musa? Well, before we get to the numbers, how about an example? The new emperor was a devout Muslim, meaning, much like today, it was his solemn duty to undertake the Hajj at least once in his lifetime. The Hajj being a pilgrimage to Mecca and one of the 5
That people got mad at Pogba for being that blood. People are just, yeah, idiots.
in his lifetime. The Hajj being a pilgrimage to Mecca and one of the 5 pillars of Islam. It's no exaggeration to say that when Mansa Musa decided it was time to go to Mecca, the pilgrimage that ensued from Mali to the Arabian Peninsula is one of the most remarkable journeys ever made by a human being. Well, I say a human being. What I actually mean is 60,000 men and women, 100 elephants, 80 camels, a personal guard of 500 highly trained warriors, and enough food, water, and animals to eat for everyone. Basically, Mansa Musa undertook this 2,700-mile pilgrimage at the center of an entire movable city, a caravan that stretched longer than the eye could see.
Crazy, man. It's
I mean, it was bigger and more extravagant even than the entourage Aladdin took with him to impress Princess Jasmine, and that was made by a magic genie. Now, if you're anything like me, you'll probably take a bit of spending money with you when you go on a trip. And it seems Mansa Musa did exactly that. Because, tucked away in a bum bag, I absolutely refuse to say fanny pack, he'd reserved a little extra cash to treat himself along the way. Of course, a little extra cash has something of a different meaning when you're the richest man ever.
That's a fact.
In this case, it was 21,000 kilograms of solid gold. You know, just in case there were some bargains to be had in duty free. You might be wondering how exactly he transported such a vast amount of gold, or at least 20,999 kilograms that didn't fit in his bum bag. That job was left to his 12,000 slaves, each of whom was given almost 2 kilos in solid gold apiece. Along with the bullions, Mansa Musa also brought thousands of kilos of gold dust, which was used as currency throughout his kingdom. Take all this together, the tens of thousands of people and hundreds of animals, the unimaginable quantities of gold, and it's fair to say, the world had never before seen anything quite like the display of wealth Mansa Musa put on during his trip to Mecca.
And the one other reason why I'm also interested in this is in Gambia you have like different cultures or different tribes, if you want to say. There's like a plethora. You got Mandinka, you got Wolof, you got Fula, Manjago, Seril. You have like a multitude of different tribes in Gambia, and I'm a Mandinka, so we're basically descendants of the Mali Empire, you know what I mean? So that's another reason, you know what I mean, why I'm also reacting to this as well, you know what I'm saying? Because this is my people, blood. This is my people, you know what I mean?
And yet, in reality, this extravagant show of riches wasn't all it seemed. As you may well know, another of the pillars of Islam is zakat, which is the giving of alms to charitable causes. That's right, Mansa Musa hadn't brought all this gold for himself. He was planning to give it away. Like, all of it. It's said that so much gold was handed out to the poor en route to Mecca that Mansa Musa single-handedly crashed the price of the commodity across most of North Africa and the Western Arabian Peninsula, including in major gold trading cities like Cairo, Medina, and Mecca itself, precipitating a decade-long recession.
This is crazy though, because like something like this would never happen in this modern era, fam. You know what I mean? Obviously, for obvious reasons. Obviously, when it comes to the government, there's certain systems that are in place in them thing that you couldn't do certain things and that, and we're way more advanced and things are structured a certain way. But just in general, though, just people just giving out hella cash, you know what I'm saying, to this person, that person, wherever you, just never happening, man. Never happening.
Mecca itself, precipitating a decade-long recession. He was basically the Mr. Beast of his day. But his generosity was about more than just cold hard gold dust. Mansa Musa also wanted to share his beliefs far and wide. But being the richest man in history, he didn't settle for simply spreading the word. Instead, he started a tradition. Every Friday for the entirety of his pilgrimage, no matter where he found himself, he had a mosque built. Considering the trip took almost 2 years in total, that's a lot of mosques.
Yeah.
In the interests of presenting a balanced view, I should point out that a lot of time has passed since Mansa Musa ruled over the Mali Empire, and written records from the time are pretty much non-existent. That means it's difficult to be completely sure his intentions on the pilgrimage were solely philanthropic and spiritual. Some historians suspect he was keen to show off his immense wealth and resources as a kind of medieval PR exercise, a branding mission designed to impress his friends, frighten his enemies, and just generally put the Mali Empire on the map. And it certainly did exactly that, both figuratively and literally.
Yep.
Because, as a direct result of the fame Mansa Musa gained for himself and his empire on his way to Mecca, both would soon begin to crop up on world maps for the first time, including the Catalan Atlas, one of the most important medieval maps of the 14th century. You can see Mansa Musa himself right here, holding a gold coin and just generally looking like a bit of a boss. The pilgrimage also acted like a
Why
sort
did they make his
of
belly
coin.
fat, fam? No. Why did they make him look like some pregnant woman or something? What are you trying to say? Oh, kings are just fat blood. You know what I'm saying? Back in them days, fam, you know what I'm saying? More times the kings going into battle with you, blood. You know what I mean, fam? They're not just hiding, like, you know what I'm saying, just behind the scenes. You know, like nowadays, how you have presidents and the soldiers. You know what I'm saying, fam? The kings and all of them thing there, blood, people in high places, they're on the battlefield with you, fam. You know what I mean?
And just generally
Not every single king, like they like to perceive today, just had a fat belly, hella fat and them thing and was just useless. You know what I'm saying?
looking like a bit of a boss. The pilgrimage also acted like a sort of epic recruitment campaign, with Mansa Musa's wealth, generosity, and effortless power winning him thousands of supporters and securing his empire the services of some of the most celebrated thinkers and artists of the era, many of whom he brought back west when the caravan returned home after completing the Hajj. Speaking of returning home, it was around this time Mansa Musa began to sprinkle a little gold dust within the borders of his own lands too, building mosques and madrasas, those are educational institutions, in many cities. But there was one place in particular for which Mansa Musa reserved most of his attention: Timbuktu.
Timbuktu.
It's somewhere you've almost
Bruv, I was writing a song the other day and I literally put Timbuktu into a bar, blood. Let me go find it, fam. Let me go find it. All my days. Where is it? Music-ish. No. It's going to be in tunes. Something. Was it grimy, blood? Where is it, fam? Oh yeah, blood. Flows, my flows come sickening, foul with extension or wriggling. Flows and a bars, not one but two. Schemes come rich like Timbuktu, blood. Oh man, I literally just mentioned Timbuktu the other day. If I'm in the bar, blood, and now here it is, fam. I'm saying on my screen,
heard of,
reacting to it.
even if you don't know why and can't point to it on a map. You may even think it's some kind of mythical location, like Atlantis or El Dorado. Don't worry, plenty of people do. These days, Timbuktu is used in the English language as a byword for somewhere unimaginably distant and remote, a status it likely earned because no European managed to figure out how to get there until the 1830s. But the main reason the name became famous in the first place is largely thanks to Mansa Musa. He annexed Timbuktu on his way back from Mecca, also as you do, and set about turning it into one of the most important centres for trade, culture, religion, and learning.
Exactly, my schemes come rich like Timbuktu, exactly.
Not just in Africa, but in the entire world. The Jingareba Mosque, which Mansa Musa...
you man really like fathoming and really hearing what I'm hearing right now, but like fam, this guy... Listen fam, shout out to all my people, you know what I'm saying? It's even I wasn't even thinking it's even Black History Month, you know what I'm saying? But to an extent, I don't really believe in Black History Month because I feel like everyone be reserving whatever, and then Black History Month, oh, it's our month, you know what I'm saying? Every day is our day, every minute's our minute, every hour's our hour, you know what I'm saying? Type of thing. I'm not just gonna reserve just 1 month, fam. You get me? Every month is our month, you know what I mean? But shout out to my people, fam. This is, Black excellence at its finest.
Musa paid for with 200 kilograms of solid gold still stands today and makes up part of Timbuktu University. For a time, one of the world's premier seats of knowledge, boasting 25,000 students and a library of 1 million books. That's more than were held in the Great Library of Alexandria at the height of its fame. And all this at a time when most Europeans believed Africa was a continent full of uncultured savages. Putting an exact number on Mansa Musa's bank account today is obviously pretty difficult. But the figure most often cited, accounting for inflation, is approximately $400 billion. That's about the GDP of Norway or Ireland. In truth, it's nothing more than a finger in the air. Not that it really matters. Mansa Musa was a man so wealthy that the exact numbers involved aren't important. His wealth was, to all intents and purposes, limitless. He could do whatever he wanted, whenever he felt like it. Luckily, it seems that what he most often wanted to do was give his wealth away in order to improve the lives of others. And
you see what I'm saying, blood? Now we don't have people like this anymore, people, man. This is a great man we're looking at, fam. You know what I'm saying? We don't have people like this anymore, blood. This is basically my granddad, fam. You get me, blood? Well, you got had a couple of great granddads, you know what I'm saying? But hey, listen,
there are
man,
certainly worse ways to spend the greatest fortune in history. I'm sure you'll agree. Thanks for watching.
I appreciate you, man.
Check out my new podcast,
Shout out to Thought YT for, you know what I mean, speaking on issues that need to be talked about, you know what I'm saying, and just educating certain people, and it's definitely got the views that it needs. But, you know what I'm saying, we definitely need to, you know what I mean, add some more views onto them thing there. I feel like I'll be checking out more videos. If you want me to react to his video or any more of his stuff, let me know. Or just any other video you want me to react to, let me know, fam. You know what I'm saying? But it's definitely helpful when you, man, give me little suggestions and them thing there. Makes my job easier. And I'll catch you, man, the next one. It's your boy Jais, and I'm out here, fam. In a bit, people, man, I'm gone.
Bar after bar after bar after bar after bar, I'm too persistent. Whipping comment, no cast. Get it on my own, no collab. But if a bar with me, that's a body bag. Your mans want smoke, then he leaves with a toe tag. Whole squad hit with a double mag Glock. Got left to the street and the body's getting chucked. Bullets with names and your shit's getting popped. Better be with me and the bag's getting cocked. Still gotta chase the bag, humble. Ain't gotta brag in a league on my own, and my stats getting flagged. Hit me for the feet, got verses in stats. Come through like the queen, gotta pay that tax.